Hey guys, welcome back. Starting a new, what is likely, maybe, if you guys like it, video series. We're going into another thread here. We're going to read the Your Silly / Derpy Moments in Collecting by Kuja or Kuya. Not sure which. Please let me know how to pronounce that. As a kid, when base set came out, I and my parent went and bought a base set starter deck and a base set binder. Awesome. Came home and unwrapped the deck as fast as I could and added everything to my newly base set binder. Awesome. Then next week or so, we went back and purchased 2 or 3 more of the same starter decks. Came home, and that was when I got very confused. All the purchased decks had the same cards. I had always assumed deck was like a big pack mini booster box or something. This memory somehow hit me today, so I just wanted to share, and I'm curious to hear yours. So it's pretty funny. I know there's a lot of crazy rumors that went around on the schoolyard in terms of like what was what. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone accidentally getting theme decks and not knowing that the cards were the same within those theme decks. But pretty good story. If you weren't a kid, maybe a little bit embarrassing, but you know what? Mistakes were made. I'm sure it could happen. Dill says, when I was a kid, I used the top of my mom's trunk as a table when showing off my cards / collection to my friends. Well, one day I accidentally forgot to take my entire binder and my coveted Pokemon silver cartridge from the top of my mom's trunk. You can imagine how devastated I was when I found out that she drove away with it. When she came back home, we jumped in the car and retraced her steps, but the binder and cartridge were never found. I was so distraught that I stopped collecting Pokemon cards in lieu of the more angsty Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh card games that my older friends were playing / trading. Needless to say, I had major regrets that I didn't rebuild my collection. It wouldn't have been hard to rebuild my collection, but I was too stubborn to revisit what I had lost. Moral of the story, don't let a silly mistake ruin your passion. Lost cards can be replaced, new memories can be made. I agree, and especially if it was back when, well, I guess it depends how old you are. If it's like base set stuff, that was plenty abundant, and if, you could have, at the time, if they were brand new cards that just came out, probably easily replaced. Maybe not as a kid, but you could get it back, I'm sure. I also would imagine that they weren't in great shape if you were showing these off on the trunk of a car. They were probably beat up anyway, but you know what? Live and you learn. All right, Stagecoach is next, and they say, I did not consistently attend my local Pokemon League. I usually only went as a guest with other friends who did attend it more regularly. My experience at League was much like going to a cousin's birthday party. A bunch of kids my age who I didn't recognize, a couple kids I did recognize who were busy with friends I didn't know, and everybody competing and one-upping each other as the coolest kid present. Kids were set up in little pods and pockets around the store, which had no formal event space, examining one another's binders and brokering exchanges that could only happen there because their moms didn't know each other and they couldn't hang out. I saw a lot of cards at the events I had never seen elsewhere. New cards from sets I hadn't seen before. Hello Rocket. Cards in Japanese. Modest cards I knew existed but never seen, like Pidgeotto. But most of all, I saw promos. Promos were the coolest to me. They defined the conventions of regular cards. Even the most mundane ones felt special. Alright, so due to the enormous volume they printed and distributed, I'd gotten my hands on a non-holo Mew, promo number 8. To my knowledge, this was the only Mew. I had no reason to believe there was another one. So when I saw the holo number 9 in a woman's binder, one of the participating mothers, I was gobsmacked. Did other kids know about this card? I had to have it. I would trade anything for it. I would give my whole collection, a holographic Mew. Goddamn, this had to be the pinnacle of Pokemon cards. I don't remember what I offered her or how pathetically I might have pleaded. Maybe she wasn't very interested in the cards themselves. and I was just there to support her kid, but she agreed to trade me the Mew number 9. The pride and fear I felt as I held that mirage of a card was tremendous. I could never possibly want a card more than that one right then, and it was all mine. I imagined losing my entire collection in a flood or a fire, and it would be all okay if I still had this Mew. I thought how I would never be tempted to trade for something special ever again, because nothing could be more special than this. While other kids swapped sets and coveted starter hollows, I had a hollow Mew. Let's see anyone's older brothers compete with this one. I would be the envy of all children. No sooner had I accepted I would never attain a card more unique and precious than this one. The woman turned the page and I saw Eevee number 11. What the F? A holographic Eevee? Eevee isn't even a fully evolved Pokemon, only 30 HP. What? I had not even put the Mew away, the card that would end all cards, before I started begging her for the Eevee2. I was certain I would never see that card again. It was all or nothing. It was try or die. This card was weird, even though I had just claimed I wanted the Mew more than anything else on Earth. Now all I wanted was the weird Eevee. Seemingly moved by my worm-like lack of dignity, she gave me the Eevee as well. Mum's effing rule, folks. I don't know what to tell you other than that. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you remember what you traded for the Mew, but that would be cool. Or did she just hand that off? I think she traded. Interesting, though. Very cool. I remember, even though Arcanine was an uncommon... Was Arcanine an uncommon? Arcanine was an uncommon. People really wanted it because of the high values on the card itself. Pretty wild. But that's how those days worked. There was no rarity guide. There was no price guide. Well, other than like the magazine ones, which those were outdated probably before you even received them. But yeah, Collector next up says, I spent my weekly allowance on tops because I couldn't find any real Pokemon cards. It happened more than once too. I'm sure this happened. This happened to myself and my brother, I think a few times, where you just couldn't find packs of the actual TCG on release, especially when it was just base set. Even into like Fossil and Jungle a little bit, it was hard to find packs, but especially when it was nothing but base set, it was sometimes you couldn't find them, and then the tops ones were there. Kids didn't really want the tops ones. I still, to this day, kind of don't really care for tops, because to me it feels like what you would get or collect if you didn't have the option to get the actual Pokemon trading cards. So that's pretty much it. Gus says, towards the end of 5th grade 2010, when my friends and I were kind of over Pokemon, I decided to give my deck to one of my friends. The entire thing, I straight up handed him my deck that I had been building up over the last year or so. The deck wasn't for playing, as my entire class was mostly just collectors. I must have handed off 12 or so of them, plus a lot of my favorite holo cards. Boy, I am sure glad that I never became interested in Pokemon cards again. I actually reached out to this friend and asked if he still had them, but unfortunately he said they were long gone. Yeah, that sucks. All right, how we doing here for time? Doing pretty good. All right. Alien Leon says, I bought a fake Mario Pikachu. Nice. I don't know if I've even seen fakes of the Mario Pikachu cards, but I'm sure they probably exist. The Sigma. Also, was it intentional? The Sigma says, not Pokemon related, but I traded a Blue Eyes White Dragon. I don't know which version, probably the one that came from a Kaiba deck. It was the same art that Kaiba had on his in the original TV show, to some kid in school, because he said he'd give me an Egyptian god card. Spoiler, he didn't. Interestingly, though, he ended up later giving me another Blue Eyes that was the other artwork from LOB. Not sure who ended up winning in that exchange. When I was getting back into Pokemon, I went to a comic store and the owner had a binder of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so I ended up buying a new Blue Eyes that had that Kaiba deck art. Yeah, there's like 69 different versions of Blue Eyes. I can't really tell them apart. All I know is it's usually you just search by the like serial number that's on the card. Will typically tell you everything that you need to know about what edition or deck or set that it came from. Karis says, I remember when Jungle released, I went to my local KB Toys and got my hands on a first edition pack. Inside was a non-hollow Electrode. I didn't know Jungle had reprints. Okay, next we have Collector, who says, hates theme decks, hates theme deck hollows, hates base set 2, knows base set 2 hollows won't satisfy the base set urge. Also, buys a Lightning Bug theme deck from base set 2 to get the hollow Chansey as a consolation prize for not having the base set Chansey. Yeah, that sucks. I feel like, I don't know when this was exactly, but I would imagine at any point the base set hollow Chansey was probably less expensive than the theme deck. Probably. Maybe just it was a long time ago and you didn't have access to a game store that had one, or the internet. Candle says, every time is forego buying a graded copy of a card I need because the copy I have at PSA is so clean, it's sure to come back at 10. This happens a lot. Not sure what's going on there. TCG Main says, when I was a kid, I spent a good 2 to 3 years telling everyone to stop buying me Pokemon cards for birthday/Christmas presents and to buy me sealed 1990s Topps baseball instead. Thought I was big braining it and going to be rich by my 20s. Safe to say those things are all completely worthless. Yeah, the sports cards from the 90s, pretty junkerific. Pretty mass printed. It was ridiculous. Like, you could buy like full sets. They would just sell you the full sets, and there wasn't really any rarity to most of it. I don't think it was just straight up, these are the players, this is the set, buy the set. Jabby says, I've shared this one before, but it all started when I was 7 years old. My first ever experience opening a Pokemon product was base set 2. My family didn't have a lot of money at the time, but my mom gave me and my sister a small allowance for the day and went to the LGS. I bought a base set 2 booster pack and opened it in the store. Out of all the cards to get, I actually pulled Charizard. That's pretty sweet. I knew it was a big deal, but from playing Pokemon Blue, my favorite of the big 3 was Blastoise, so I didn't really care as much as I should have. My sister begged me to keep the card because she understood the value more than I did, but like an idiot, I traded it in the same day to the store owner, and he gave me a starter theme deck and some more booster packs for it. In hindsight, probably not a completely terrible deal, but not a great deal either, knowing how valuable WotC-era Charizards have become. I mean, you gotta remember the base set 2 Charizard wasn't really worth anything until recently. So, the theme decks and the packs might, depending on what packs they were, might even be worth more than the base set 2 Charizard. But the good news is I finally bought them back at auction last year. It's a CGC 9.5 that I put into an acrylic case, but I got it for less than what PSA 9s were selling for, surprisingly. So I have no complaints. I got my childhood memory encased forever. Yeah, I mean, you're going to make mistakes. At the time, your base set 2 Charizard wasn't worth all that much, and it took a lot of years before it did anything. Even base unlimited Charizards near mint were $100 until recent times. All right, Ascended Bidoof says, I love reading these. Back when I was 8 or 9, I was at daycare, and my 2 friends convinced me that a bunch of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards were buried at the bottom of the sandbox. So I spent all of our outside time that day digging for treasure. As you can probably guess, there were no cards at the bottom of the sandbox. I should have known better, but I needed those cards, so I couldn't risk not finding them. I still get teased about it 20 years later. I can imagine so. All right, let's do one more for the video here. Stagecoach says, I remembered another story this morning. My parents hated Pokemon so much, they hated Pokemon cards especially, and they did not want to buy them for me. Most packs I got were from asking other people for them for holidays, birthdays, or as impromptu pickups at the pharmacy. Getting a new booster pack was always an occasion, and I only got one at a time, so it was a big deal to get them, and I never ignored an opportunity to request one. My parents especially detested that I could plead for Pokemon cards, be indulged, and then be unhappy with whatever was inside. This is probably the biggest reason they felt it was a waste of money. One day, my aunt and uncle were at our house and were going to run some errands before returning with lunch for all of us. As a courtesy, they asked me if I wanted anything while they were out. I said Pokemon cards. They exchanged some glances with each other and my parents before my uncle said sure, they'd get me some. I was ecstatic. I bounced around the house waiting for them to get back in anticipation of having a new pack to open. They returned with a pack of Topps Pokemon cards. Oh no. I was obviously disappointed. These were not what I wanted. I detested these things, which were fake cards to us children. They were worse than nothing, and they were an insult to my interest. My aunt and uncle could not know this. They did not really understand what I was asking for and fulfilled the request as intuitively as they could. Unable to hide my unhappiness, I was chastised for not being grateful as my aunt and uncle tried to say the cards they bought were cool. I remember my uncle, who had never really seen a Pokemon before, taking the cards and thumbing through them and just reading their names at me. See, Krabby, that's a good one. Krabby is good. I said something like, these are not real Pokemon cards, which flabbergasted the adults. They are cardboard squares with cartoon characters on them. How is there any question of legitimacy in this context? How can they not be real? This is the sort of semantics that made my parents insane. They thought I was mentally ill, gripped by an exploitative fad that turned children into incomprehensible drones. I often felt patronized by adults when it came to Pokemon who didn't get it. They had no frame of reference for why certain things were more desirable than others. I disliked being told that Krabby was a good Pokemon card and that I should get excited about it. I got defensive. I probably complained that they didn't get it. Always the crybaby. I probably got bleary-eyed and emotional. I ended up taking the stack of cards and throwing them down my basement stairs where my bedroom was located. I picked them up later. For now, I just didn't want to see them anymore. A little bit later, someone opened the door to go downstairs and saw the cards strewn about. This was a huge scandal. I had to apologize to my aunt and uncle for being ungrateful. I had to apologize to my parents for embarrassing them. My parents then said that they would not buy me any more Pokemon cards ever again because this was how I treat them. They told me never to ask for them again. I was angry and upset by this, but my parents almost never bought me Pokemon cards anyway. But true to the word, my parents never bought my Pokemon cards again, and anytime I even hinted at it, they told me not even ask. If only I'd kept my cool, I could have continued to get like 2 packs a year on my birthday and Christmas. Pokemon was too emotional for me. To this day, I hate Topps and other off-brand Pokemon cards. Wow, that's quite the story. And yeah, we were. I don't think we were this emotional or this like upset when we got the Topps cards because it was the second best option at the time. It was better than nothing kind of scenario. But yeah, that's real, and it's funny. Well, I mean, it's not really that funny. It's funny in hindsight, I guess, to think that you hating the Topps cards resulted in you getting less of the actual cards. So, cool story, nonetheless, and maybe a learning lesson. Be happy with what you get, or it's just gonna make everything worse. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you guys like this one. If you do, let me know, and we'll have to read through more of these. I enjoy them, and I'll probably read through them regardless. So if you'd like to see it in videos, let me know. All right. See you next time. Join the Discord. Bye.